The ultra-rich come in for an awful lot of stick these days, and rightly so. But would it surprise you to learn that when they introduce humanoid robots into their factories, might actually force them to fund a universal basic income for everyone? Life expectancy today is very different from when my father was born. His life expectancy was little more than the retirement age. Today, it's significantly greater. And that means we have more people around who are not working. If the robots are also replacing the workers in factories, then the manufacturers will reach a certain stage where they just have no customers earning an income to buy their products. And that's where the universal basic income will come in. I'm Dave. This is Dave Takes It On. I get an awful lot of comments about people worried about losing their job to robots. But in this video, we are going to explore how the introduction of humanoid robots might actually secure your income for the rest of your life. With life expectancy increasing all the time, that could be quite some time. A male born in the UK at the turn of last century had a life expectancy of 44 years. He wouldn't even reach retirement age on average. A male born in the UK today is likely to survive almost twice as long, at 83 years. And that gives a major problem in demographics. We are living longer these days, but that's only part of the story. Another part is the birth rate. We have a traditional view of what they call a nuclear family, which is 2 parents and 2.4 children. And that is a nice stable situation, which is really good for the economy of the country. If the population is replacing itself, 2 parents, 2 children to take over, then that's stability in the workplace and in the economy. If the birth rate is higher, we have a natural growth, and that also is pretty good for the economy. We are advancing as a society. So if the birth rate gets up to 2.4 or 2.5, we're actually replacing slightly more than we lose on a regular basis. Where it becomes much more of a worry is when the birth rate drops below 2. This is what we're starting to see around the world, where the birth rate, for example, might drop to 1.5, and that means that we are not replacing each year as many as are no longer with us. And so the population is starting to shrink. And that no longer is very good for the economics of the country. But in addition, because we are living longer, it puts a bigger burden on the state to fund more people living longer. And yet the population is shrinking, which means the workforce will be declining. It is a worry all around the world, and there's some countries really badly affected. And in fact, Elon Musk is one of the ones who is out there shouting about this. And it's just one of the reasons why he is one of the leaders in developing humanoid robots. Elon Musk is concerned that in the future, if the population of the world is declining, then there will not be enough workers to operate the factories to make the products that make them into the ultra-rich. So it's not altruistic, it's self-interest, but he needs a good working population from which to choose to run the factories where he makes his money. If that's at risk, the whole world economy is also at risk. An awful lot of people ask, why is there such a fear at the moment of robots? They've been around for years, particularly in the auto industry. They were introduced back in the 1960s, and they took over an awful lot of the manual jobs that previously were carried out by humans. So if robots have been in factories for half a century, why is there such a worry today? The simple answer to that is the robots of today are very different from the ones from the 60s. The classic thing about the ones from the 60s, they were all bolted to the floor to a very solid concrete base. And these robots would weld things, they'd paint things, they'd stamp things, they'd assemble things, but they were always in a fixed place. And that left quite a large area for humans to have an employment there. There were things that humans could do, like walk to a different part of the factory, that a robot at the time could not do. What's happened recently is the focus from the manufacturers, and this is not just in the auto industry, this is the whole industry, is that they've gone on to robots that are very mobile these days. If we start with Amazon, many of you will have seen, if you look inside the Amazon factory, they show these driverless robots just whizzing all over the place, moving parcels about into relevant delivery areas, all done autonomously, no humans involved. They are starting to do drone deliveries. These have happened in America at the moment, where a drone will land in your back garden and you go and take the parcel. It drops the parcel and you go and collect the parcel. No humans involved. So the type of robots that are being developed today are very, very different. And when you make a humanoid robot, and BMW is one of the world leaders in this, Tesla is one of the other world leaders in this, then when you have a humanoid robot, they can directly replace a human being. And that is why there's such a worry. A robot that looks like a human, walks like a human, acts and moves like a human, they can very much be a direct replacement for the human. And this, tied in with a low birth rate and a longer life where people are living but not working. And in fact, Amazon has now calculated that in the future, they may not have enough human employees, potential employees at their disposal that they are likely to need. I could obviously say that maybe they ought to treat their employees a little bit better and they might stay around longer, but it is a universal problem. An awful lot of functions today are being done by robots which previously could have been tackled by humans. Just stepping back from robots, we need to include general automation and AI, artificial intelligence, because it's a triple whammy. And all of those are a direct threat to your job. We're seeing it already in some of the call centres where AI is taking over answering the phone and answering your questions, because you can now talk. In fact, you probably are talking without realizing it to an AI, to a computer. It understands what you're saying. It can calculate the best response for you. So we're seeing a general reduction in human employment, which is directly affecting every one of us who is looking for a job. So is this a direct threat to employment in general? And the answer is yes, it is. But it's also a big problem to the manufacturers and the call centres, because they need customers to pay for their products or their services. So if you were to replace all of the jobs in, for example, the auto industry with robots, and all of the employees that have been sacked or let go no longer have an income, who is going to buy the cars that they produce? So we come back to the idea of a universal basic income. If a manufacturer, let's take the motor industry, just an example, they introduce a load of humanoid robots, get rid of all of the human employment, and they have bolted down robots as well, and they are now making cars at a fraction of the cost it used to cost them, because they're no longer paying anyone. They buy a robot and it just works for the next 10 years. Then the ultra rich are saving an absolute fortune. But they've just run out of customers. And the simple answer to that equation is for the ultra rich to fund a universal basic income for everyone. In other words, this is just redistribution of wealth. The ultra rich, instead of keeping it in the bank, will need to pass that back to the buyers of their products so that they can give it back to them. Now, in all of this, you have to appreciate the ultra-rich are not going to give us their money. There's no chance of that happening whatsoever. So why would the ultra-rich fund any of this? And the answer is the government might have to force them. If they have robots which are working, producing products, then why not tax the robots as if they were humans? That, no matter how many robots they built, would then be a guaranteed income for the future for governments and for running the country on. The ultra-rich would have no choice. You got a robot, we're going to tax it as if it was a human. If it does 40 hours a week or 168 hours a week, boy, are we going to rake in some tax off that robot. So the ultra-rich are not going to get away with this. It's not going to be a voluntary arrangement. It's going to be a total transformation in society where the robots, the humanoid robots, will be treated as if they were humans and they'll be taxed. And that's where the funding's going to come from. Not voluntary, it's going to be forced on them. Well, if you got this far, I'd like to thank you for watching. And if you'd like to see more like this, then please subscribe, because then we can notify you every time we launch videos. We do at the end give you some suggestions of other videos that we've already made that you might like to see along the same lines as this one. But if you do have any other ideas for new subjects, just leave your comments down below and we'll have a look, and if we get enough appeal, then we'll be launching videos on that subject as well. So thanks very much for watching. Please like, please subscribe. I'm Dave.